Welcome back to RFL. Was it a meeting of the current and future presidents at the White House today? You see here, that's Hillary Clinton on her way into the White House this morning. Private lunch with President Obama. No reporters allowed. No word on what they talked about, though, based on the 2016 speculation the lunch date generated, you'd think it would have been on how Hillary plans to redecorate the Oval Office. So the question is, what did they talk about, and how does this help Hillary Clinton, Rich?
What do you think?
I think it doesn't hurt her to be seen at the White House, remind everybody of her connections. And, oh, by the way, some of you wanted to vote for me instead of him. She's having breakfast tomorrow with Joe Biden. So it's anytime she's in the news, it's helpful for her, at least right now.
Obi, is it delusional when people say, we have this debate with Dominic all the time, as rough as the handling for Obama has been, she actually, even with the last name Clinton, which would have been inconceivable a dozen years ago, that she will get a warmer reception from Republicans on Capitol Hill than this current president? Do you buy that?
To some extent, yes. She's got a better relationship with him. At the same point, there's a lot of stories on there about how she was, even though she was a junior senator in New York, she had the Secret Service. She didn't need Secret Service on the Capitol. She could have used Capitol Police, and there was these. I'm just saying.
Cares?
But you ask about relationships, and if you look at what it takes to get along with people, McCain right now is getting along not just with Obama, but the chief of staff. Why is he getting along with the chief of staff? Because he and the chief of staff have had a relationship.
Don't forget
Washington's
about the late 90s.
relationships.
Clinton was a bad word in the late 90s. It will be again as soon as she starts
I agree
running.
with you, it is about relationships, but I don't buy for a second that no matter who the president is, if it's a Democrat, the Republicans are going to treat them the way they've treated Obama and vice versa.
Well,
that has nothing to do with the personality or the race or the gender of the person. It has to do with the American presidency.
I wonder if they would still play deadline chicken with the Democrats if a Democrat was in the White House. We had another pair of deadlines on the horizon again. September 30th, mark this down. End of the current budget. Without a deal, the government could shut down. Some Senate Republicans want to block any deal unless, get this, Obamacare is completely repealed or they'll shut the government down. Other deadline hits around Halloween. Government hits the debt limit. Republicans demanding massive spending cuts or tax reform or both. Late last week, the president seemed to draw on the line in the sand on both deadline threats.
Shutting down the government just because I'm for keeping it open, that's not an economic plan. Threatening that you won't pay the bills in this country when we've already racked up those bills, that's not an economic plan. You know, that's just being a deadbeat.
Yeah, and those comments backed up by Treasury Secretary Jack Lew.
You know, George, I think the president has made crystal clear he's not going to negotiate over the debt limit. And I've got to underscore how important that is. Well, it's not okay to default. Congress can't let us default. Congress has to do its work.
So here's the question, Rich. I'm curious if you think we're going to hit a government shutdown or a debt limit crisis the same way we have in the past, or do you think they'll come up with an 11th hour deal and avert it?
I'm probably naive again. I didn't think we were going to do it last year, this self-immolated stupidity. But I think there's a little bit of a better chance. You've seen some lawmakers, even conservative Republicans, saying, we'll work a deal out this time. They said it last year.
Don't forget, Coburn today said, hey, I'm not for the lead plan. We got to figure out what we got to do to get this thing passed and work on it. There's going to be a continuing resolution at some point, and there's also going to be an agreement to raise the deficit, the debt limit. We know this will happen. The question is what
would you have said that last year at the same time, though?
Well,
yes, you would have.
I would have too. I don't. You know what? It depends what the argument was and what day of the week it was, because you could argue either way. But what I'm saying is, there will be negotiations to get to those agreements.
There will be negotiations.
That's the question.
I'm not as convinced that they will get there, however, because as you get past Labor Day, everybody's thinking not of that, but of the midterm election a year later. And that's the only thing on the mind. If he gets a deal, he's helped. And they are not going to
Which means Richard Pryor, Mary Landrieu, and the others will have to figure out.
Richard Pryor?
Mark Pryor.
I hope.
Yes, well, Richard Pryor too. But anyway, Mark Pryor will then have to figure out what they're going.
Who's that running with their hair on fire?
What will they do to try? What will they vote for, and what will they be willing to give up because they're up for
This
re-election?
is all going to be about the midterm. They will
I'm so
not make
stuck
a
on
deal.
Richard Pryor there. All right, we take a quick break. When we come back,
thank you.
Could A-Rod be banned for life, and would that be such a bad thing, let alone unfair? Stay with us.